Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my top 32 deck profile from the Remote Duel Extravaganza. I made top 32, which is good enough to get a mat, which is pretty sick. Unfortunately, top cut was top 16, but I did get a mat, which is pretty cool, so I am pretty hype about that. I am just a little disappointed I missed out on top cut, just barely. Like, if I would have got one more win, I would have guaranteed made top 16, which means I would have been able to play day 2. But I didn't, which is unfortunate. But I think that I'll talk about the last match. But I definitely could have won if like one thing was different in my hand, which is like super unfortunate. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into the list. So we are on 3 copies of Alpha, 3 copies of Zeta, 1 copy of Delta, and 1 copy of Gamma. So ironically, I've been playing like a lot of Drytron builds like the last couple of months, and I usually say that having like playing like 3 Delta, 3 Gamma is like definitely the way to go. But honestly, I think that with this build, it was correct to play less names because you can combo with no Drytrons, which is actually just kind of insane, or just even 1 Drytron. So like you don't even need to see multiples. It's nice to see multiples, so it's like good in some hands where like you see like 2 names, but it's definitely not even necessary, which is something that's very different about this build. So we are on 8 names, at least hard names, so like literal Drytron names. Moving on into spells, we are on 2 copies of Emergency, and 2 copies of Nova, and 1 copy of Fafnir. So I know this ratio is really weird. I know that playing like 2 and 2 is like really weird. I guess technically like the Fafnir is just a 3rd copy of Nova, but this is basically what I decided because if you see like 2 Emergency, 2 Nova in a game, like you just lose, which in fact happened my last match. Game 1 I opened 2 Nova, and game 3 I opened 2 Nova, which if either of those scenarios were like a different name, like even another Emergency or something, I probably would have been fine, and I probably would have won one of those games. So you know, it just sucks to see like these names in pairs because these aren't literal Drytron names. Like there were hands where like I would open like 2 Alpha, but it would still be playable because like you can use the other one to tribute for other Drytron effects, or you can, you know, even just like use it for like ritual spells. And so like there's a lot of scenarios where drawing like literal Drytron names is fine, but drawing like 2 of these is just unplayable. And I settled on this ratio because we play a lot of other consistency spells such as the Pot of Prosperity. Which I did settle on 3 of this because this can turn into anything. This can turn into Drytron names. This can turn into fairy names. It can do anything in the deck. So that's why I decided to settle onto 3 copies of the Pot of Prosperity over like any of these. I think that this was really solid, honestly. Sometimes like when going second, I'd cut out like Prosperity for like a side deck card sometimes. But like it's kind of whatever. You can definitely play it in like the multiples. But yeah, I like the 2-2-2 or the 2-2-1-3 ratio, I guess. I think that this is the best ratio right now because of how much consistency there is. I know that like playing 3-ofs in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is just mathematically correct, but when you have so much variety in consistency, you can spread the names out. Similarly to how like Trap Trick D-Barrier, like a pointer was, you know, like you can definitely afford to cut a D-Barrier and a pointer for 2 copies of Trap Trick, so that if you see pairs, you can still play like relatively decently. So yeah, that's basically it for like all of those names. So there would be 5 names plus the 8 plus these. So technically, you have like 16 ways to see Drytrons. This is what is this? 13. This is 13 literal like ways to see Drytron names, and then like 16 if you count on the Pot of Prosperities as Drytron names. And then we play the 1 Medionis. Obviously, you have to play the 1. I was considering playing 2 because of DD Crow, but everyone DD Crows Ben 10. Everyone DD Crows Alpha. You know, like they never DD Crow the Medionis. So it's literally just fine. You can just like play normally, and you don't even have to play the second ritual as well, even though everyone's on DD Crow right now. Then moving on into fairies, we're on 2 copies of Diviner. We're on 3 copies of Preparation of Rites, 3 copies of Ben 10. So these are just insane cards. Like being able to see Ben 10 is like insane in this build. In other builds, I'd probably cut the like prep down. I might even cut Diviner down. Like, I was originally just playing one copy of Diviner, but it's just like really, really good to like draw in this deck, just like naturally, because obviously you can resolve it twice. But the main thing why I originally cut it down to 1 is because we're on Sprite Alpha in the extra deck, and you can summon this back and then just use the Entis effect to pop on your opponent's turn. So that comes up all the time, by the way. That's like insane. So I think that this 8 ways to see like Ben 10 is like really, really strong, especially when you pair it with other stuff in the deck. We play the 1 copy of Natasha. It hasn't came up recently, honestly. Realistically, the effect in time comes up more often, where you can just target a card, gain life points. Like, there's definitely been times where I've summoned Natasha, gain life, and then I pass to my opponent, and then they combo in main phase, but they still like lose in time because like they don't have enough time to go into battle. And even if they do go into battle, you can just negate their attacks with Natasha. Like, she's actually just like insane in time. Then moving on into the Herald engines. That's what we've all been waiting for. So 3 copies of pre-preparation of rights, because we're going to be searching for Dawn of the Herald and Herald of Perfection. These cards are insane. They bait out every disruption in the game, which is busted. If they don't negate this resolves, and you're just immediately going to have fairies in hand. Like, after you resolve this with like a Ben 10, it's like auto win basically. I think there was one time where it wasn't auto win because my opponent played it really well, where I pre-prepped, I got these, I activated it, tribute Ben 10, summon, and then I went chain 1 Ben 10, chain 2 this. He DD crowed the Ben 10, so I still got the 1 search off the fairy, but it put me so far behind on resources, because then I was only able to get like 1 fairy. Like, I get like Diviner, but then like if I normal summon the Diviner, I can't, like, my Herald of Perfection's like not live anymore. So I think at that point, like, he was able to like hand trap me even further, which is a little unfortunate. But so there's like very, very few ways to actually like hit this properly, but the DD Crow is pretty decent if your opponent knows how to time it well. So yeah, and then we're on the 2 copies of Orange Light. You search this. Typically, the ultimate like end board is you have 2 of this in hand, and then you have 1 of this super quantum white layer. So basically you want to search for these 3 fairies and leave them in your hand, because what you do is during your opponent's turn, if you get dark rulered, you can use the white layer and the orange light for a negate, and then use the white layer to grab Alphen, and then you can use this for another negate. So that's 2 negates off of just like through dark ruler. So that's like really good. Dark Ruler Droplet, both of those cards. So I think that this is like a really solid package. There were some times though where white layer felt really weird in my hand, I'm not gonna lie. So I don't know, like, maybe I will cut the Super Quantum package in the future. I don't know for sure though. Like, you could maybe just like cut this for the 3rd Diviner maybe. I don't know. It's definitely weird. It's definitely no Ava, which is like the problem, you know. But I think that it is still like really solid and worth considering with this build. Today, honestly, there weren't very many times where I thought it was like awful. It was always at least like medium decency. So that was nice. And the last fairy tech we're playing is insane. This is Trias Hierarchia. So I was noticing a lot of the times with my end board is that I would have like a Beatrice that like I wanted to send something, but like on my opponent's turn, I would just send like a Drytron name. And it just like felt really weird because there wasn't like a whole lot I could really do with it. So I decided to tech in a copy of Trias Hierarchia because this card is busted. Through Dark Ruler, basically I'll just tell you what it does, just like give you the basic rundown. So you contribute up to 3 fairies to summon it from your hand or grave, and then it gets effects depending on the amount of fairies you tributed. So obviously if you tribute 1, it's just going to summon itself. It doesn't do anything else. If you tribute 2 fairies, it's going to summon itself and destroy a card on the field. And if you tribute 3 fairies, it's going to summon itself, destroy a card on the field, and draw 2 cards. The draw 2 comes up sometimes, not very often. It didn't come up for me today. It could have. There was scenarios where it definitely could have came up, but I wanted to keep like the perfection live because it wasn't negated. But what I do typically on my end board is I like to establish another Ben 10 on my end board. So I'll end on something like Ben 10 Perfection, and then I'll end on like Beatrice, so like 3 fairies, and then I'll use Trias Hierarchia to tribute like the Perfection that's like negated from like Dark Ruler, the Ben 10 and the Beatrice, and then you can summon this, and then pop a card, draw 2 cards, and then trigger your Benten, and then search another fairy. That's like probably the orange light for another negate, which is insane. Plus, this is huge. It's 2,900 defense. So a lot of times your opponent has a hard time outing it. Although, obviously, like Gigantic Sprite, like with like a, you know, extra deck is material outs it, which is a little unfortunate. Then for the last 4 cards on the list, we're on 3 copies of Droplet and 1 copy of Callby. Callby didn't come up today. I drew it a couple times, but literally did nothing. It literally could have just been any other card in the deck and it would have been better, which is a little unfortunate, but that's just for today. Obviously this card's just busted in general. I won't cut it from the list because of that reason. It just wasn't good today, which is a little unfortunate. But yeah, moving on into the side deck or the extra deck, we are on a copy of Link Kariba. You kind of have to play it for the Nova. You can also play Anima, but like it came up today where I didn't actually do it, but I should have. I was 600 life points off. I should have normal summoned Orange Light and then attacked with all my monsters, and then Link Karibo, tribute the Drytron, summon this back, and then attack 300 per game. I didn't do that, but it definitely could have come up. But I was already ahead on advantage, so even if I passed, like, he was still losing. We're playing Nightmare Phoenix and Unicorn. Unicorn's kind of whatever. It did come up today. I think that these cards are, like, really good, especially if you pair them with the Super Quantum engine. You can, like, discard one for, like, White Layer, draw a card, and then you can search the white or the fairy, and then summon Unicorn and spin another card. And then you lose no advantage. That's like actually insane. Yeah, Sprite Elf, IP Masquerena, these cards are like really good. There isn't really like a good way to make Sprite Elf on your turn 1 unless if your Diviner gets negated. So a lot of times I would just turn my stuff into IP Masquerena, and then in my opponent's turn I'd make the Elf. Especially because you have a lot of options with IP. You can make Unicorn, you can make Elf, you can make Appaloosa, which we'll get to in a sec. We're on 1 access code. Came up once today. Honestly, it's not even like super necessary. I probably could have killed a billion other ways. But I like having the option to outskill drain. Which is really like the idea. The Appaloosa, also super important. Appaloosa is a fairy, which means you contribute it for Dryas Hierarchia, especially if this gets Dark Rulered. Comes up all the time, literally just like all the time, where you like tribute your Appaloosa after you've like used the negates, or it only has like 1 negate left, or it's about to get destroyed by a spell or something. There's like so many times where this comes up. It's insane, like to tribute it because it's a fairy. We're playing Underworld Goddess. Didn't come up today at all. Honestly, this card is probably the worst card in the extra deck. I always banish this with Prosperity. It's literally just kind of garbage. Then we're on Beatrice, Downer, Zeus. We're on obviously this. Zeus didn't come up today, so they're just kind of whatever. 2 Fafnir, Antis, and Arclight. So the only change I'd make to the extra deck, honestly, is I would remove the Underworld Goddess for a Synchro 10. And basically the reason I would do that is that it makes your Beatrice a 1 card, or not a Beatrice, but a Diviner a 1 card starter, because it can basically, I'll show you like the basic idea. So you can do it in like a couple of different ways, but if you have Diviner, you can normal summon your Diviner, and then you can send 2 cards here, both being techs in the deck. So you can send Dryas Hierarchia to grave. This is only if you open no Drytrons, because otherwise this combo is completely illegal. You're going to tribute to summon this, and then you're going to trigger the Diviner effect to summon from deck, and then you can summon like Orange Light here, and then your Orange Light and Dryas Hierarchia, that makes a Synchro 10, and then you can make like Barone. You can also make there's like another like an agent synchro or whatever that you can make, but I would just probably play Barone just because it's a negate. Another way that you can do it to get to a synchro 10 is that you can normal summon your Diviner, and then you can send the White Layer to grave, and then the White Layer can obviously grab you, not this, sorry, wrong card. It can grab you the Alphen, and then you just activate any Drytron, summon the Drytron. Even Nova works here. And then you just synchro, this is level 7, so that makes this a 9. And then you just synchro this into a 10, which is Barone. So, I mean, that's like a couple ways to get there. I think that the first one, or the last one I just mentioned, that Diviner Drytron play, is actually really, really solid. I think that could be a really good way to play around hand traps. I didn't really notice it until like halfway into the tournament. Someone pointed that out to me. And so I'll probably be playing that in the future, because that's actually a really cool way to play around hand traps. when you don't open, like, obviously, like, busted. Moving on to the side deck, we're on the one of a pointer. We're on one copy of Lancia, one copy of Harpy's Feather Duster, and one copy of Draconids. I side the Draconids because some people are on Scythe still, so you want, like, some way to be able to play. So yeah, all of these are one-ofs. This is searchable. This is at one. This is at one. This is searchable. So, like, you get the idea. It's just, like, you know, whatever. 3 copies of Cosmic, because Runic Sprite is, like, super popular right now. Runic anything, actually. I played against quite a few Runic decks. So these are actually, like, pretty decent cards, especially to outmine. We were on Droll today. I think that this was honestly really bad. I made the executive decision to, like, try Droll today to see, like, how it would do. And this should have been anything else. Realistically, I probably should be playing either more board breakers or maybe, I don't know. It's hard to say, but, like, maybe Nib, honestly. Nib would be pretty decent. I was noticing sometimes where the Nib would be really good. Maybe Imperm, because Imperm's also kind of like a board breaker kind of in some scenarios. So maybe I'd play Imperm over Drolls. But Drolls felt really, really rough today. 3 copies of Lava Golem. This is the best board breaker you could probably play in the deck. This card's insane. Usually you just side out like a Diviner, and then some other, like, sometimes you side out like the Herald stuff. What going second? You don't have to. It's still, like, really good going second. It baits interrupts, so, you know, you don't have to side them out. Last 2 cards were DD Crows for the tier matchup. So I think moving forward, I'd probably bump the DD Crow up to 3. I don't think I saw this today, but, like, playing against tier, you definitely, like, need to see it. So I'd probably play multiple DD Crows, and I'd probably switch these for Imperms. So 3rd DD Crow, 2 Imperm. Probably going to be the change I'm going to make. I don't know for sure, but, I mean, that's, like, the idea for right now. So I think the list is really, really good, but definitely still needs a little bit of fine-tuning to it. But this is what I've come up with. This deck is super insane. I have really, really enjoyed it. It's literally Drytron from last year, which is, like, super fun. Like, playing Herald Drytron is, like, super, super fun. I'll probably leave a link in the description to Shumping Zhu. He did a thing last year with this deck that was actually, like, insane, and it was the entire reason why I'm playing a lot of the ratios I am, and a lot of, like, the concepts that I am in this deck. So it was really based around that deck from last year. So really, shout outs to him for that. I'll be leaving a link in the description to a playlist that he made that shows you basically all the combos and a lot of stuff. The one thing I will say is that they're a little bit different because obviously we have 3 Ben 10 now, and he played Idaten in a lot of his combos, which I took out from the list because I don't think Idaten is very good. With all that said, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys later.